Yeah. Yeah, it's saying 2.37 now. For 2.7 for Shutesbury, and that's down from 13 inches this morning. Ay, 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 crazy, huh? But what can we do? Well, wonderful. Thank you for jumping on.
Yeah,
And
of course.
I'm going to make you the host. Well, at someday the select board will meet with the planning board. Maybe next week. Who knows?
Okay, I think last I heard or saw from Nathan was possibly tomorrow. That's what he wrote in the email. He wrote, oh, sorry,
No,
27th. I thought he said 13th.
he did make an attempt and he didn't find a quorum very
Oh, okay.
early, so he switched on, I think
The
it was
27th.
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, depending on how much snow or if any snow, I might stay home. It all depends on what it looks like outside around 9 o'clock. So
Yeah. No, stay safe. I think most everybody, because it's been changing so wildly, most everybody is probably going to stay home and work from home
okay.
tomorrow. So don't push the driving if it's questionable.
Okay.
All righty. Well, have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And I'm really leaving.
Carrie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Cool. Always helps to take off the mute. How are you?
Good, how are you? You look like you're in a cool room.
I'm in a hotel in Philadelphia.
Ooh, sounds
So
fun.
nothing amazing. And but
Are you missing the snow or are you getting different snow?
I'm not sure. I think we're gonna get like slushy crap.
Oh,
But not like real. I'm not actually sure. But
yeah,
yeah.
I'm hearing like at first I heard 48 inches, then I heard 6 to 10 inches, and now I'm hearing 1 to 4 inches. So I'm just interested to see what we even get.
Yeah. I talked to my wife and she told me that she last heard 3 to 6 for Shutesbury. So
Mm,
but her guess is schools will be closed just because it's starting early in the morning.
yeah.
So regardless of how much we get, it'll be messy. But yeah, it'd be nice to be there and getting snow.
Mm.
But I think by the time I come back on Thursday, it'll all be gone.
I feel like we're swapping between winter and summer all in the same like week and a half.
Yeah, it was weird. So like in Philadelphia, it was like mid 40s,
Mm,
and I was walking around today like with a hat and like just a fuzzy.
mm.
I was not cold at all. It was really weird.
Yeah.
As I tell my kids, I apologize to your generation for this climate change mess.
Uh,
It's, it's at least you got to like experience snow. We'll see what the hell happens in the next decade.
yeah,
So
it'll definitely be interesting.
yeah. Where's the rest of the team? My God.
A good question. Hope not
Right.
everyone saw the rescheduling of the associate member and thought we were rescheduling for the end of the month.
Yeah. I know that that would be interesting. I know Nathan knows the right day, but so in terms of minutes, the ones we're reviewing
Yes.
are all ones that I've seen and sent to you as far as I could tell, right?
Yeah. So I have the rest. I'm just finishing up January and I'm just gonna look
Okay.
over tomorrow and send them all. I just didn't want to send like this email and then that email and then so I thought it'd be easier and a little bit cleaner if I just sent them in one go and then once
Yeah.
they're edited, send them in another go instead of them all over the place.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's good thinking. Hi, Nathan.
Hey, what's going on?
Good. We're just wondering if everyone else is coming or not.
Yeah, Deacon isn't,
Deacon is not. Okay.
but I don't, I haven't heard from anyone else that they aren't coming, so.
Well, we got Jeff. A reliable participant.
Yeah,
So we have common ex planning board and not so many current planning board.
no,
Carrie was wondering if they got confused because of the rescheduling with hey Jeff, with the associate member thing.
oh yeah, and I never sent everything out like I normally would. Oh boy. But, hello Jeff, hello, Miriam, good to see you both. Hello Tom and, Keith
Hi.
as well. Well, we got,
Yay.
Everyone's starting to slowly trickle in.
okay,
We have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Okay. I'm gonna give it another minute here.
Jeff Lacy, you're moving back to Shutesbury.
Not hardly, but old habits are hard to break.
You
Well,
know,
nice to see you again. How's life on the hill town?
It's good. I have a Conway Planning Board meeting on Thursday. I'm actually a member, so I can count towards the quorum of that one.
Well, good to see you again.
Yeah, you were very good. You waited what, 2 months before you joined?
A
Give us
little, yeah, yeah,
That
I'll
was
be
that was
back.
a reasonable break. That's like a vacation.
yeah.
mm, mm.
Oh my goodness, Steve, we're gonna see you?
I mean, yes, I'd like to say it's good to see Jeff again, but I'd be lying, so I don't want to say that.
All right. Well, greetings, everyone. I'm gonna call the planning board to order. We do have a quorum where we have everyone here with the exception of Deacon, who informed me he will not be able to attend tonight's meeting. So the first item on our agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment? None. Okay. Well, in that case, I believe the next item on our agenda will be to move into executive session. Without me, we still have a quorum, so I am, as usual, going to sit this one out. So if
We can text you when we're done.
yeah, well, I'm actually gonna just go right back into the waiting room and hopefully Carrie can just
Oh.
let me in. So yeah. But yeah, I'll let go ahead, Michael, go ahead and take this for the executive session and then we'll return I'll return once that's all done.
Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session.
Hey, Michael, this is Miriam,
Yes, Miriam.
just for the.
Oh, yeah,
benefit of
you have to
public,
go away. and Jeff.
How do we get back in? Just stay in the waiting room?
Okay, I'll stop.
Whoa.
That was weird.
Was that
That was an automated thing.
That was not the recording. The recording's still going.
Not me.
okay?
Just explain, do we just go in the waiting room? Do we have to sign back out and sign back in?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Oh, okay, so how does that work again? Does somebody sign us in and out, or do we have to?
Actually, let me see. I can put you guys in waiting rooms and then I think it'll just say like so and so is in the waiting. And then once we've decided to come back to public session, I'll turn on the recording and add everyone on again.
Right.
And it should be
Oh.
relatively short.
Okay,
And you could have a vote first though.
Yeah, and I think the thing, Nathan, do you want to just get the approval of the planning board in terms of Keith and Tom?
Yeah,
Or you want me to do that?
that's, does
Ashley's
anyone
coming.
does anyone object to Keith and Tom joining the executive session? If
Okay,
anyone's
I'm not sure we should have non-members in the executive session. That seems, that doesn't ring right, doesn't feel right.
okay.
Yeah, I actually hadn't expected to be considered eligible for an executive session. I didn't know it was going to be on the table with the select boards not coming.
Right. All right, so go ahead and go based on that.
So do I hit leave or is there a waiting room option?
Well, we
You'll be
didn't
put
vote.
into the waiting
Oh,
room.
sorry, when the time comes.
okay, so you want me to, we'll vote and then we'll disengage people, Carrie?
So yeah, I'm putting Tom and Keith also in the waiting room, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds that way.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay. So Nathan, you want me to proceed or you want me to wait a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so,
Well, wait, are we in executive session now?
No.
not yet, not yet. Yeah, so I'm gonna move that we go into executive session for reason number 3 to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting has a detrimental effect on the government's litigating position. Litigation specific to complaint received from Coles regarding the Shutesbury solar bylaw to return to open session. And then I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, and then we got a roll call in. So, Steve,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, and
I'm an aye.
Nathan, you're abstaining?
No,
Or
I,
I-
I'm not, it's just to go into session, but I am gonna ask to be put in the waiting room along with,
Oh.
the other non-members, so.
Okay, so we'll take a pause before going to executive session so people can leave or Carrie can help them leave. And then
Okay.
we'll proceed. And see you
Okay.
guys very shortly. This should be no longer than 10 minutes, I think. Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome. Just 1 second, I hit admit all, so everyone's gonna come in. Just waiting for Nathan. There it is.
Nathan, you've got the floor back.
Oh, thank you, Michael. All right. Thank you for doing that, Michael. Next on our agenda is associate member appointment for Tom Seifert. And as you all have heard, the select board was not able to make it tonight. So this we're going to be looking at going to a select board meeting 2 weeks from tomorrow.
You said the 20,
Yeah,
6th,
27th. Yeah, on February 27th.
right?
At 6:30. So more to that will follow beforehand, but just make a note on that, and then we will move on. So now I will be handing it right back to Michael. He's going to talk about the general bylaw for ESS, energy storage
Okay.
systems.
Thank you, Nathan. So I set this up just a little bit for folks, but so apologies for repeating, but I want to make sure folks who were not part of that executive session oriented. So this is a bylaw that is just focused on energy storage systems. It's a general bylaw as opposed to a zoning bylaw, so it has different characteristics. And if you read it, hopefully those characteristics are somewhat obvious, or it feels different, but the way Donna encouraged us to do this, just to lay that out. You know, she said, go forth and do this. I had learned that folks in Eastern Mass were approaching energy storage as general bylaws. I found out last week that Wendell is also doing one for their annual town meeting, which is early April. So they've got one written and I think going to be discussed by the select board, their select board, like in next week or two. But the idea with the general bylaw is that it pertains to the entire town. So it doesn't look at particular zones of town. It's that the whole town is looked at consistently. And so the idea here is that we want to be able to have some regulatory control over energy storage systems for the purpose of public health, welfare, and safety. And so that's in the purpose. And then, you know, I'll just go through this briefly and then you guys can ask me questions. So similar to what we did last year, there's sort of some background, which Donna suggested, make it specific to Shutesbury. So this is why we would want to have these requirements, because we have a mostly volunteer fire department. We don't have hydrants. We just have drinking water wells. We don't have public water. And there's various kinds of batteries, but lithium ion are definitely the most troublesome right now, and they are the one that everyone's rolling out. So the big thing is we created this energy storage system licensing board, which is a new creation. And so that's different. So it doesn't come before the CBA, it doesn't come before the planning board, it doesn't come before the select board. But the planning board would have one representative on it, so it would be made up of all three select board members, one Concom member, one planning board member, one Board of Health member, and one ZBA member, so seven all told. And then, there is similarity in terms of zoning in the sense that we're requiring an application with some basic information. We're requiring documentation, and what Donna had said was ask for stuff that you're concerned about with energy storage. So you want to make sure, if you're worried about safety in terms of water and fire, make sure that that's in there. So that's, a chunk of the things that are in there, as well as the details about the system, what it, how it operates, emergency systems, etc. I put in a particular thing just for lithium ion batteries because, at last town meeting, in January 2023, when you passed the solar bylaw, Kate Sell, who works for Physicians for Social Responsibility, came up and said, there's other kind of batteries. They're not being developed commercially, really, but it's worth differentiating. And so the real concern is lithium ion. And so having more specific requirements there in terms of reporting and data collection. And then setting up a system, because it's all new, a set of criteria for why one would approve it. So I guess I'll just leave it there and see if people have questions. But I guess I'll say one more thing. So if the planning board likes this, because it's a general bylaws end up at the select board, and the select board puts it on the warrant. The source of a general bylaw can be multiple things. So a planning board could do it, citizens could do it, the select board could do it themselves. So what I think the process is if we like this and we recommend it, it actually doesn't need a public hearing, which is also interesting. We could do one if we thought it was important to do, but it's not legally required. But we would recommend it and send it to the select board, and then the select board would decide to put it on the warrant. So it's a little bit different than a zoning board bylaw, where although we send it to them, they don't really do anything with it. And they send it back to us and we have a public hearing. So the dance is a little bit different. But so anyone have any comments, questions, thoughts?
I have some specific thoughts about it. I think it's a really good start. Okay. I just have some very specific comments. They're minor.
Okay.
If you want to go into them yet, or do that in another way.
Well, I would say, what if they're like wording things, maybe just send them to me in the email, but if they're conceptual and it's good to share with everybody else so that people know what you're thinking, I definitely encourage that.
Well, I'll give you one example, okay?
Yeah.
And then you can decide. When it comes to the vegetation for doing an ESS,
Yeah.
it's a C1 towards the end of that paragraph.
Okay.
You want to call it up, maybe? You
Oh
want
yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I should do that.
yeah,
I was on my screen, but I forgot to do that.
yeah.
Oh, Carrie, can you make me able to share?
Yes.
And so this is just an example, Michael. We don't have to go too far with this.
Yeah, that's okay.
All those kind of comments you can do separately. When at the end of that paragraph, you talk about when possible, a diversity of plant species shall be used with a preference for species native to New England. I would just say a diversity of plant species shall be used using species native to New England. Why?
Okay.
So that's the level of stuff that I have.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and one thing you reminded me, it's worth noting, these design standards here, with the exception of size, which was new, the noise, the visual impacts, the utility connections, the land clearing, all came from the water supply, all came from the solar bylaw. Those are directly lifted and then tweaked just to make sure that they were consistent with what a general bylaw would be. But those are all relatively the same. But I totally get your drift on that. So I would say send them to me. Anything else, Steve?
I don't need to go into them now. I'll send them to you. And then I think maybe we can set up a separate meeting. You can judge for yourself.
Okay. Cool. Miriam, I see your hand. I just want to see if someone else has any thoughts before. Go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, could this be put up on the website so public can look at it?
I guess I'll leave it to Nathan. I mean, I think at some point we want to do it. I don't want to put something up that's not ready for prime time because then it's going to freak people out and they'll feel like we're recommending something that we're not agreed to. So I think my preference would be rework it based on any comments from this meeting, bring it back at the March meeting. And if we can agree on something, then post it so people know, hey, this is what the planning board is sending to the select board. It seems
Well,
like that's probably better.
My only comment about that is that you're using it tonight, so it is a public record.
Mhm.
And, you know, making people go through hoops to get a copy of it. If you have a copy, it just seems like, you know, putting it up and saying this is just a preliminary draft would let the public also provide comments, since you may not even do a public hearing on it.
I think get our house in order first before we invite public comment.
And are you invisible on purpose?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, are you
Yeah,
trying not to
I don't
comment?
have to be, no, but, yeah, I mean, I think that's, we can put it up when we want to.
Okay. Yeah. And I saw Keith nodding as well, so it seems like it's not quite consensus, but there's the sentiment is in that direction, I think.
I mean, Miriam is correct, that it does become a, document used in the meeting and, therefore a public record. That does not, compel us to put it on the website at this time.
Jeff, did you want to say something? I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, just a minor thing. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember when I read it, you made a sentence such as Shutesbury is a heavily forested town. I know that there's actual documentation. I can't remember where it was from, but 80 to 90%, or actually it was like 80 to 100% forested, depending upon the study. I don't know if you wanted to put the percentage and cite the study in terms of the amount of forests found in Shutesbury, or just keep it like that.
If you can easily find it, send it to me. I think the more definitive, the better. I would hope the Attorney General would look at this differently because it's a general bylaw and not a solar bylaw. But, their critique of our 2023 solar bylaw is that they wanted more evidence. So the more evidence we got, if it's easily attainable, I think it's worth doing. I wanted to avoid getting into the whole biomap thing. Just because it seems like that's loaded and we didn't have to do that. I don't think we have to do that for this.
Okay.
Steve? Your face is saying you want to say something.
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
okay.
Again, I'll send you my comments, and if you have any questions, we can just chat.
Okay. Cool. So does this this approach make sense to people in terms of, and I think, without going into the content of the executive session, I would say the reason Donna is encouraging us to do this is because she's also suggesting that we wait a little bit of time about considering a solar bylaw. And so since this is its own separate public health, safety, and welfare concern for the town, that we proceed with this one in this manner. So I think what I'll do is I'll look for, the stuff that Jeff can send me. It's Steve, you can send it to me and then we can talk. And then if anyone else has stuff, if you've digested it further. And Nathan, if it makes sense, I'll just bring it back. We can bring it back in March and, we've got town meeting the end of April. So my thought is if we meet, I don't know when our meeting is in March, like March 8th or something like that. Then we can send it to the select board. And at that point, the one thing I would say everyone should consider, I don't even know how this would go, is like I mentioned, legally, we don't have to do a public hearing on this. It seems like, politically, it would be worthwhile airing stuff before town meeting and answering questions. I don't know if we're probably the sponsor of this, but it's really the select board who would put it on the warrant. So I don't know who would call the public hearing. It'd be worth asking Donna, but I'd say that's something to ponder in March, if you all think we should do a public hearing or not, even if we're not required to. So we can move on if no one else has got any other comments on this one.
One more minor thing.
Yeah,
In a previous meeting, we mentioned that we have a single pumper with 3,000 gallons and that's it. If you wanted to include some of the limitations of our fire department in there or not.
bring them on, Jeff. Any details you got? I mean, I think it's this background section, having more detail is better. So if you can provide detail that you can, I mean, I'll look as well. I didn't want to get too into the weeds, but if you have it, let's put it in there because I think this stuff is real.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why everyone's up in arms.
No. I know, like, for example, last January, it took 6,000 gallons to put out a single battery in a Tesla. 6,000 gallons. And so we can't even put out a Tesla battery, never mind, huge megawatt lithium battery storage.
Okie dokie. Thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing this one if that's good. Nathan, you want me to go into the next one?
What is next on the agenda?
The other bylaw, the
Yeah.
general one.
Yeah, why not? Take it away, Michael.
Okay, let me find it here. Okay, we'll make this big and I'll share it again. Okay. Okay, so this one, this is this is sort of a general purpose. This is a zoning bylaw amendment, as opposed to a general, and it's doing a couple of things. It's mostly, I would say, consider it an update / cleanup document because there's 4 different things that it's doing, but I believe we can just bring it as one warrant article and have several amendments. So the first thing, this first thing I'm just suggesting. No one else is doing it. No one told me to do it. Donna didn't have an issue with it, but I think what we're discovering is that energy is a use that's all by itself separate. And so it seemed like we should have an industrial set of uses and an energy set of uses. So I just was suggesting creating industrial and moving things that are currently, all these 4 things currently exist in our bylaw, and just separating them out. So we have industrial and we have energy separate. So that's all this does. I'll go through it and then we can circle back and discuss them. Associate members. So this red stuff here, as I think you all saw, the bylaw the town meeting passed that the AG then knocked down, which we then got, we decided to go through the legislature, became law a few weeks ago, which is fantastic. So that means that the will of the people in Shutesbury will be honored and that our planning board associate members will be able to act on any and all activities that a regular planning board member would be able to do, when tapped by the chair. So that's what this red part does. Basically the bottom 3 or 4 paragraph sentences are exactly the stuff that was in the warrant, and then chapter 1 of the Acts of 2024 is when it became law. So that's that. And then the second paragraph, I actually think we should circle back and discuss based on what Steve had. Nathan and I realized like a month or so ago that our current associate member bylaw has a sentence in here where the cursor is this in section G that says that associate members cannot participate in executive session. And so at least when Nathan and I talked about it, we thought, oh, well, we sort of would want associate members in executive session so that they would be up to speed. So if something happened, they would have the inside scoop on things. Or at least make it at the invitation of the planning board. But if it's in the bylaw, it says they can't, then there's no way that they can. So I think we have to revisit this in a couple of minutes. But that's why the second paragraph is here, just to take out that last sentence. This next part, the review criteria. This is, Donna had suggested at Jeff Lacy's recommendation, and it's good that Jeff's still in the picture, that what we've learned over the last bunch of years is that big industrial scale energy projects, whether they be solar or otherwise, pose new risks that we probably didn't think about when we were developing the special permit criteria in 2004. So Donna suggested that I go through and see if there's ways to strengthen that. So these red things, there's two parts, there's general findings. And so this, I just added some stuff here, but also made it really explicit by adding a new one that basically says that any proposed use doesn't unreasonably increase the risk of harm for public health, safety, and welfare. So, you know, that's just saying that it's not in there currently. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. These are just, in terms of specific things, a couple of additions. But again, Donna had said, be specific about what the risks are. So risk of fire, you know, because there's energy storage systems on the solar installation. So there is a risk of fire. We can put that in as a special permit, not as a solar, but just generally speaking, if we're concerned about the risk of fire, we can put that in. And then I added 3 new ones here. Basically that if the town's responsible for services, it has to be able to provide those either practically or financially. So think about, you know, emergency response. You know, we can't be approving something that we can't actually protect the populace from with our own capabilities. That we can't approve it if it creates unreasonable risk, either financial or legal liability to the town based on regular operations or malfunctions of something. Again, we've talked about that in terms of, you know, the solar bylaw we have. And then the last thing is just, again, that sort of general, we can't approve something if it creates increased risk to the public health, public health, safety, and welfare of residents broadly defined. And I think one could put in there, and I might just do it, increased, you know, within reason. You know, it's all within reason. If it increases the risk a little bit, you know, it's not like we can ding it, but if it's got to be within reason. Donna just sent Nathan and I some comments, mostly that I put in, but this one thing here, severability. She wasn't sure if everything would pass muster with the AG, and so she just suggested putting in severability so that if the AG said that something didn't pass muster, that everything else would survive the review. And then last but not least was I stuck in, we had a few months ago, we had the conversation about de minimis, and this is the red is the de minimis that Donna reviewed and recommended. And it's mostly everything. She took out the sort of appeal process for residents. And I think there was something else significant that she took out, but this is the language that she said is fine. So taken together collectively, it would address creating new industrial use table. It would create the language that we just got passed into law for associate members. It would update the special permit language, and it would deal with de minimis. So that's our collective stuff. So I think we should just discuss it, and we should definitely discuss this if we want to with the associate member. Taking this out doesn't mean that associate members can be in executive session. It just means that they're not prohibited from being in it, which is what it currently says. So I don't, anyone have any thoughts about this stuff you want to share? I know that's a lot.
I'm good taking out that last sentence on G.
Okay, that's helpful.
And then on under A, general findings,
Yeah,
I just asked you to look at number 2 and number 4 because they seem very close to being redundant.
that's it. It is true. I think what I was thinking about with number 2 was trying to parse it because right now it only has the black. It only says the benefits of the proposed use to the town outweigh the adverse effects.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, so I was trying to think about like, well, what adverse effects are there? And maybe we could take out the health. I was thinking financial and legal quality of life, but I get your point. That they are similar. So maybe I'll just
We don't
highlight
have
and
to-
revisit.
Michael, we don't have to wordsmith it now, but if you look at it closely, I think there's a way to combine them
Yeah,
with much trouble.
cool.
I think
Thank
that's a good point, Steve. I mean, it is, basically, you would not find that something unreasonably increases, the risk of harm if you also found that the benefits of the proposed use outweigh the adverse effects.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying, right? So it's like if you were to find that the benefits outweigh for condition 2, then and then if you found that it's unreasonable increase of risk in condition 4, then you would have some cognitive dissonance going on.
Keith, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thanks. One that's sort of unrelated but unrelated is the reference to our master plan, which is 2004.
Very outdated, yes.
And, I was reading it and nowhere in the master plan is climate change even mentioned, not even the word.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I think renewable energy is mentioned once and only as a potential to generate revenue for the town. And I mean, we're not going to update the master plan anytime soon, I don't guess. I guess just making a note that that's very dated, that the public might have different ideas or perhaps priorities may have shifted a bit since 2004.
Yeah, no, this has nothing to do with the bylaw, but I feel like a couple of years ago, I raised it for that particular reason. And just my personal sense, if we would stop getting litigated against and the attorney general would let us sort of take the next step. I think that's next logical activity because it's a huge lift, as Jeff Lacy can speak to. It's like, but 2004 was a really long time ago and there's huge omissions. I totally agree with you. It would make a big difference.
And my only other general comment, and I'll have to read through again, but just number 4, where anytime I see, from ways to get tangled up in either discussions with project proponents or legally is, unreasonable, significant, words like that are open to interpretation. And I guess I'll go back through it and look, but anytime I see those kind of not clearly defined words, it's like, if we can somehow tighten that up a little bit, make it more explicit, it might save us time and effort sometime, or whoever's on the planning board in the future.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, as someone who's not a lawyer, I mean, I think that's job security for lawyers. Everything, but they always insist upon it because When
Right.
I've tried to take it out, and the few times I've tried to be specific, what the thing is, you can't be specific because you can't predict the future. So you have to put in
Right.
a mushy word. And a mushy
Right.
word means that you get litigated. It's
Yep.
crazy making.
Yep.
But I totally agree with you. Open to
And-
suggestions.
Yeah, and again, I don't know, we, in my previous life, we used to there was this healthy tension between our council and the decision makers, where council might suggest something that, because they're very risk averse typically, that the decision makers might say, thank you for your counsel, and we're going to go this way anyway,
Yeah.
and take that risk. So I think we should keep that in mind too, that again, Donna's perspective is keeping us, I assume very conservatively, keeping us out of court, which may be too conservative. And I guess
It might get us,
our-
it might get us in court too.
that's true. Right.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Totally hear you.
No, that's a difficult problem.
Any other comments on any of this stuff?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at,
I'll scroll wherever you want me to.
all right, so, under B, specific findings, number 4. During construction, operation, or, that's all right.
This is Donna just corrected this. This is one of the ones she sent us today.
Okay. Yeah, I also misread it. Because I thought you said during construction or operation, but construction, operation, or use. So that's good.
Yeah, I personally don't understand the difference between operation or use, but Donna suggested it, so I went with it.
No, that's very important because operation narrows down what kind of use you're talking about. Not all uses would be, something that's operated per se.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah. So it's yeah. I'm glad that Donna caught that and put use in there.
Michael, under B9C, if you would scroll to that.
Is that up? Yeah, B9C. There you go. Okay.
Destruction of important wildlife habitats. Are you, for some reason, specifically staying away from the word, biomaps or that whole body of work that exists?
I would, I'm trying to, I don't know if it's just a knee-jerk reaction on my part. I thought, what I was trying to do is, to Keith's point, sort of updating things. So, wetlands is sort of universal. It doesn't get outdated. Forest ecology wasn't really specific in it. So I wanted to put in resilience and carbon sequestration storage, because I think those are things we've talked about. And, or it's more than just forest ecology in a general sense. There's more functionality underneath that. But we could put in biomap.
Well, I think your addition in red is fine.
Yeah.
It's only you have a generic reference to important wildlife habitats and damage to wetlands or forest ecology. And we have an existing maps that the state made up that we can go back to. But if that's not a politically wise move, okay, I get that, but that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll put it in and sort of ponder it, because, it's it's puzzling to me personally. It's like the state's the one that came up with biomap. They're the
Right.
ones who put the stamp of like, these are important places. So you would assume, I get that in the context of solar, since we can't regulate solar, you get whacked for that. Since this is really just about special permits, it probably could be survivable. It's worth, we could put it in as long as we have the severability clause. Keith?
I might leave it more general, because biomap could disappear. If for whatever reason the state what is it, Department of Natural, I forget what Massachusetts calls their natural heritage program. That's a product of Nature Conservancy in the state, and they're always coming up with new tools and new methods of displaying their information. So I think just leaving it as, and in our own discussions, perhaps we
Yeah.
can rely on whatever the current iteration is of habitat models, but that would be my inclination, is to leave it more general.
But
Yeah.
how do you add teeth to destruction of important wildlife habitats? How do you define what those important wildlife habitats are?
That's a good point. And I might argue the biomap isn't necessarily the best, even though it's what the state has put in place. But when you read the details, some of the biomap layers, that's a different discussion.
So is there a way then of referring to the existing biomaps and then say, or subsequent iterations?
Yeah, possibly. Or
They usually say or successors.
Yeah, or,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Keith. That they may not be around in, let's say, a few years, but at least we can make reference to them, or whatever the current way of defining important wildlife habitats are by the state.
Right. Well, and I guess that also the word destruction, because it leads off with will not cause significant adverse environmental effects, and then destruction of important wildlife habitat. Maybe modification of important wildlife habitats, or because it may not be, absolute destruction of it. It
Right.
may,
It's diminishment of somehow.
yeah, and it has to be to some level, because lots of things we do have some effect on it. So it should be, well, the word up there is significant. So,
Yeah.
but we're kind of getting wrapped around the axle here. So,
Yeah. That's one of the lawyer's
How-
favorite words too, significant.
How are
Yeah,
we
I
ever
know.
gonna approve another special permit if we have to find that, well, including the reduction of ecosystem resilience and carbon sequestration?
Well, think about so Whiteman was a special permit,
Yeah,
it would not be significant, I mean,
that's significant.
I don't think we would argue that putting a house there is really significant.
Well, Michael, is this something worth chatting with Donna about to get her take on it? If there's a way to,
Oh, this concept?
yeah, see.
Yeah,
And again, what you have in red, I'm fine. It's just trying to add a little bit more teeth, if you will, to destruction of important wildlife habitats.
yeah, she looked at this already. And with the exception of the severability, she had 4 comments. And one of them, I guess I don't know if chagrin is the right word, but she's, instead of appropriate, she put in reasonable. So, so she's
Right.
seen this, but we can mess with it. I mean, I mostly, right now the black exists. So, it's a matter of sort of making it more accurate based on going forward. So I think the point about destruction, I don't, hey, Jeff Lacy, are you paying attention? Do you,
Of
do you
course.
have historically, because you were, I think probably, I'm guessing, the most involved when this was developed? Was there any thinking behind this?
This is a fairly standard list of special permit criteria that I think a lot of towns have these, similar kinds of things. And there's supposed to be, it's a discretionary permit, and it's the planning board's discretion as to whether something is destructive or degrading a resource or something. So it is not, it's designed to be things to consider in your discretion. It's not supposed to be black and white standards necessarily, that's why you don't get numbers in there and percentages and things like that, because it's the opinion of the members.
Thank you. That's a good orientation. Anything else people want to jump in on any of the stuff?
With this is, so what Jeff was just saying is that it's, at the board's discretion, but the way this, wording is for the review is that, the special permit granting authority may approve the special permit application only if it makes written findings that these, criteria are met. So it seems that it would not be at our discretion to find that all these criteria are met if we are to approve a special permit. Is that accurate or not?
The way I understand it is that we've got to address all of these and have discussion about whether we think X, Y, or Z is sufficient or not. The discretion is for each one, but I think the requirement is we have to address each one, so that for due diligence, we have to ask the question, is pollution of surface water, is that significant adverse effects? Yes or no? And then we have a conversation about that. The discretion is in the yes or no part, but we would not be fulfilling our duty if we just sort of said, generally speaking, we think it's good, and we don't really touch upon all of these questions. So I think the requirement is that we have to discuss them and make a finding on them, but that the discretion is within each one, are they significant or not? Jeff, did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, often these type of criteria have, either the benefits detriments test. So it may not meet all of these things, but the benefits of the project, outweigh the fact that it doesn't meet them all. Or up in the very beginning, you use the term will not unduly, or some fudge word like that gives you discretion, gives the planning board discretion with each and every item. So unduly, will not unduly do this, that, or the other thing, because, most development of any scale will have an effect on the natural environment and things you're trying to protect. But that's sort of to be expected, it's, Shutesbury is not the natural paradise it was 400 years ago. It's, all of us have diminished it a little bit by what we do here. So, but is it unduly or not?
Okay. No, I mean, that's a good answer. You do have to look at them, but it's, the answer you come up with is at our discretion, right? So,
I think Miriam's got her hand up, and then I think we can move on for benefit of other stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
yeah.
Well, isn't the evidentiary standard preponderance of evidence, so that, you don't have to conclusively prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it meets all these standards? You have to determine by preponderance of evidence, which is more likely than not. So something like 51% likely to meet the standard, as opposed to, 49% unlikely. Is that the way this decision making has to be? And I know that's true for the Concom. I assume it's the same for zoning.
Well, I don't think there's any portion of our bylaw that specifies a standard of evidence.
I think it's inherent, though, maybe Jeff would know, but I think that the preponderance of evidence standard is inherent in zoning and land use, isn't it, Jeff?
I would, I don't know if anything's inherent in,
I think it is.
Yeah.
The evidentiary standard is, I think.
Well, special permits are very heavily regulated in statute, unlike the site plan review, which is something you can make up on your own. Special permits are subject to Chapter 48, Section 9. And if it says preponderance in there, then preponderance it is. But you should probably have a quick read through Section 9, special permits, and just make sure you're in line with what that says. If you don't mind, I have two other comments that I was hoping to make that
Go for it.
just by way of advice, just letting you know that the Coles preliminary plans that have been submitted, if they indeed are appropriately submitted preliminary plans and they're followed up by definitive plans and all that, then these changes that you're making will not affect those projects. You know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing is, if you're going to be changing the zoning every year, updating it once or twice a year, you really need to stay on top of keeping your current copy of the zoning bylaws up to date with the town clerk, because it can get away from you. These changes can get away from you, and you can really lose track of what's what. So,
Duly noted.
okay.
We've seen it before.
Yeah. So Nathan, I can take this down and we can move on. Should I take it down?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So let's just talk real quick about timing on this. We would do a hearing, I mean, when are we gonna try and schedule a hearing on this?
Well, that was the one thing I was gonna suggest. So right, if we went forward with the things, so last meeting we looked at lighting and we have this one. So there would be two zoning bylaws. My sense would be that we would want to have a hearing end of March, early April at the latest. So what I was thinking is that if we bring back this one and the lighting just to confirm and vote that we're recommending them in March and whatever, assuming the board thinks that they're in good shape and et cetera, that would be early March. We could then do the hearing by the end of March, early April. And I think the noticing would be fine in that regard. And then we'd have enough time to do the report to town meeting, get it to select board. So that's what I'm generally thinking. And with the energy storage one, and it's a similar timing, but a different pathway. So if we agree that we like that in March, then we could send it to the select board. If need be, we could do a hearing. If we decide to do it or if they decide to do it, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work, but it'd be a similar kind of approach, where we'd get the hearing done late March, early April, so that everything's all squared away. How's that sound?
So with April, the second Monday is the 8th.
Yeah, I think we were just,
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if my preference, if possible, would be to try and hold a hearing at our regularly scheduled meeting on April 8th. Rather than doing a separate meeting late March. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts either in favor or against that notion. Obviously, if we got something in, any new business, we might have to change those plans, but you know, if nothing else comes in that we need to deal with, then we could probably have the hearing on April 8th. I just wanted to check that that gives the right amount of time for town meeting. And if it doesn't, then obviously we gotta do it before. Did we lose Michael?
I think
We
so.
lost Michael, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the answer about timing, Nathan. Maybe Michael does, or maybe Jeff does.
I guess we don't have to decide tonight either. I just want to kind of,
It would be good to know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, you know, I think at any rate, our March meeting will be the last chance we'll have to tweak this and make any changes to any of this stuff.
Hmm.
Right? If, you know, if we're gonna do a hearing either late March, early April, you know, it's gotta be posted and you gotta have the language in the post. So. And I think that kind of does it. I don't know what happened to Michael there. If he's, he might be having some kind of difficulty. I think he was.
He's coming back.
He is, okay. He's back. He's muted.
Oh, it looks like he's on his phone.
Yeah, I'm back. So I'm good with doing April 8th, if that makes sense.
We just, we're, you know, one of these days I'm gonna get these dates in my head down pat, but what's the town meeting, is that the Saturday, the 27th?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, what's the requirement before town meeting? If we have the hearing on the 8th, you know, we close it and then we just send a report to the select board for town meeting?
I don't even think we send it to the select board. We probably, I forget how we officially do it. We can send it to the select board, to the town clerk. We make it available to the town, basically. But I think you need 2 weeks, which is sufficient. And the report doesn't have to be extensive. So I think that would work if we did a hearing on April 8th.
Okay. All right, we'll plan on that. And I just told
I
everyone
think the
we're-
most important,
Uh-oh.
the most
Mike,
important
you're
thing
breaking
is
up.
the notice part.
Right, the notice for the hearing beforehand. Okay. And Michael, you are breaking up. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
You can,
Michael,
okay.
why don't you turn your camera off to see if that it increases your your ability to not break up.
Uh,
You got to remember to pay your bill for
how's that? Can you hear me?
yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah, it's the hotel. I'm not even at home.
Oh, I see.
I'm in downtown Philadelphia. You think you'd have good internet?
There's too many
Ridiculous.
too many other people getting on the internet there.
Yeah. So we should be good with the notice. If we agree to something at the March meeting, that should be plenty of time to do the 2 notices, I believe. Right, Carrie?
Yes. I mean, that's,
Yeah, oh, sorry, I didn't know if I was muted or not. Yeah, that should be enough time. I'd have to look over the, because I think it's 2 public,
Yeah.
notices, right? I'll have to look. I'm pretty sure it's like, 14 days and then 7 days, I believe. I'll have to double check because I've only looked at that sheet once when I first started, so.
yeah, not less than 14 days. So, you know, we'd have to get it in right away, but, yeah.
Yeah, if we know this is something that we're looking at, then we could have it drafted beforehand and then we're ready to go.
All right. Yahoo. Okay. Cool. And Michael, I just told everyone, you know, if we want to make any changes, we got to do it next meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the preliminary subdivision plans we received from Coles. And I sent out a draft letter, which do I have? I'm gonna share. Okay, Carrie, will you make me a co-host or something so I can share
Yes.
real quick?
Well, Michael's re-entering. I think we may have lost him again, or maybe it's his computer. It is his computer.
Uh-oh, Michael's on twice.
Okay. Are people able to view this okay?
There you
Yep.
go.
I'm actually just gonna try and so, there it is. Okay. All right, so similar format as some of the last letters we put out, but you know, the letter notifies them that it's the findings and decisions with respect to 4 preliminary subdivision plans received by the board on January 17th, and notes the plans and questions. For the findings, I say we said plans were submitted to the planning board and board of health, and written notice of such submission was hand delivered to the town clerk. Day of submission is determined to be January 17th, 2024, which is the date the documents were signed for and received. Note that all 4 plans include letters requesting waivers of compliance from various sections under the regulations governing the subdivision of land. I note that the applicant does not provide any evidence or rationale for granting such waivers, or that they would be in the it would be in the public interest. One of the waivers they asked for was for a there's a requirement that if you're using multiple pages, that you have an index map that shows the whole parcel, and that is it like, you know, 1 inch to 200 feet, right? But if anyone actually looked at the plans we got, the separate pages they gave us are already at 1 inch is equal to 200 feet. So as a result, it would be impossible. And the other thing is there's a requirement that the pages be no larger than 24 inches by 36 inches or 2 by 3 feet. Right, so it would be impossible to make an index plan with that scale on a parcel as large as these ones. So that's why I said the board acknowledges that. But with the other request, the board does not find that it's in the public interest to grant such waivers. So I note that the plans provided and labeled as I'm actually going to take out one of these double L's here, but yeah. Montague and Leverett West do not meet the requirements for elements shown as listed on MGL Chapter 41, Section 81L, the definition of a preliminary plan, namely existing lines of streets and ways, easements, and public areas. Montague does not show Carver Road, and Leverett West does not show an easement for an underground transmission line that goes through that parcel. The underground transmission line can be seen on the town zoning map, probably other places too. And the obviously Carver Road is you can find that on Google Maps. So those are missing. There may have been other examples of things like this, but these were kind of like the big ones that were kind of more material, I thought. So plan labeled Pratt West contains an error. And this is that I can bring up the plan if anyone wants to look at it, but if you look at the maps for Pratt West, at the top, the first page of it, there's an area that is designated exclusion area, and it's noted with the number of acres. And then to the northwest of that area is an area on the that they call Lot 1. And then the subdivision road that's shown on the plan is split in two, and one side goes off to the south, which is Lot 2, and the other side is cut off between the area that's labeled Lot 1 by this restricted area, or so anyway, so what this shows to me is that it's the lot labeled as Lot 1 on the plan has no frontage on a public way, which would violate our zoning laws. It was somewhat difficult to ascertain this based on where the lines were on the map and in the way that it was broken down between pages. So after I get through everything, we can look at that. It'll take a minute to bring it up. Okay.
So I got a question. Maybe this is for Jeff. This is for you. So unmute yourself. Are these substantive enough items that Nathan's found to decline, to decline the subdivision plans?
Well, these are preliminary plans, and it really doesn't matter what you do with them. If you do absolutely nothing, it doesn't matter. It's not appealable. There's no clock running on you to do anything. I mean, these are submitted obviously to freeze zoning. They're a prelude to a definitive plan that will come later within 7 months, I believe. I don't know that you need to respond in any way to these. I mean, that you might
Well,
want to check with Donna, but
we did.
yeah,
That's-
yeah, we had a conversation.
And
Didn't she agree that we don't really need to respond to these preliminary plans?
no, she said, Jeff, that because you asked her that, she said, no, you should definitely do something.
Do something.
That she thought we should respond. There were some things like, for example, the question about how it was mailed, that it wasn't registered mailed. She said that wasn't definitive and that wasn't substantial enough. She couldn't support that, but the whole frontage on the ways and the maps and things like that, she thought were important to label. So I think the answer, Steve, was Donna and Jeff and I had a conversation, and then Nathan and I had a conversation with her. And so I think all of these are, what Jeff had said is suggesting was originally we should be sparse in our comments, because why tell them why they're deficient? And we're
Right.
not required to be deficient. On the
Right.
other hand, you have to have some level of information. I mean, my 2 cents, I think Nathan did a great job of sort of digging in. So it sort of strikes that balance. I mean, the whole preliminary plan thing is just bogus overall, but I think Donna's recommendation was take some action, have a record of, turning them down where they're deficient. But to Jeff's point, they can come back in 7 months with the definitive, and then this doesn't matter. The only thing I would say, which is interesting, this is I think it's the third time we've been through this, and they've never done a definitive, that it's really all about getting their foot in the door. And if we're not doing a solar bylaw, at town meeting, this particular preliminary won't do anything if it's followed up with a definitive, because we won't have anything
Right.
put in front of them by then.
Right. But whether you approve it or deny it really doesn't matter. If it was submitted and if indeed it was a preliminary plan. And the way we got these things before, a couple years ago when they tried this, was the lots that they were showing had frontage on a public road. They showed a little cul-de-sac, but there was also frontage on a public road. And if you read the definition of subdivision, it excludes lots that have frontage on a public road. Those are the A&R plans that we do all the time. So that was a categorical exclusion. And those are the kinds of things. Well, there's also an incomplete submission. If they're not giving you everything, if they haven't, those are the kinds of things that eventually the town could argue, that they didn't properly submit a preliminary plan, that it either wasn't a subdivision or it wasn't properly submitted, by the method of submission, or it lacked the information required. I think those are the three categories that you need to be on the lookout for.
Well, the one thing, Jeff, I don't know if you said this or Donna said this, but I found it really interesting, is that unlike everything else we're dealing with, preliminary plans are not appealable. We make a decision and that's what it is, that there's no process for appealing a preliminary. They just, because they can come back with a definitive later if they so desire. So I think that was helpful. So
Right.
like, no matter what we do, they can't appeal it. We just
Yeah.
give it our best shot.
Right. But if you wish to deny them for one reason or another, that's fine. If indeed it's a preliminary plan you're denying for one reason or another, that they can still follow up with a definitive. If the original thing was a preliminary plan, if it showed a subdivision, if it was complete and if it was submitted by the proper method, then whether you deny it or not doesn't matter. They can still come 7 months later with a definitive. So, there's a difference between the plans not qualifying them for a zoning freeze on the one hand, and whether you approve them or deny them on the other. So it's wicked technical. So
Yeah, I mean, to prevent the zoning freeze, if you can show that it's not a subdivision because all the lots in the plan have frontage on a road, that would work. Or if it if it's a substantial departure from the definition outlined as a preliminary plan, which is things like stating that it's a preliminary plan, which these do, it has the landowner and the surveyor listed, and a legend, and in a general manner shows the topography of the area, right? We hit them on some of those things, where we say that lot or Montague doesn't show label Carver Road, right, which is a existing way. So that's a departure from that definition. Whether or not it would be substantial enough to say it's not a preliminary plan, I think that would be something that you could bring to court, but it might be, it's not a foregone conclusion that would disqualify it if they submitted a definitive plan.
yeah, where
And
all
with the
this was,
definitive plan, it has to be
That makes
approved in order to get 8 years. Otherwise, but it is, when they submit the definitive plan, there's a zoning freeze in place, I think, and And that'll kind of carry through the board's decision on the plan and through any appeal process.
Yeah.
If it's appealed.
Where all this would play out in the future is if they come in with, say, solar proposals and they're not adhering to the requirements that you've adopted this spring, and they're claiming a zoning freeze, then you go back all the way back to now and say that, well, these weren't preliminary plans properly submitted. They had flaws. So, and
mean,
maybe not all these plans do. Some of them might be fine and others not, but you have to look at each one and assess them.
Well, the
Yeah.
waivers, just to jump in if I can, so the waivers, all of them are deficient because they ask for waivers. So it's very clear in the Shutesbury subdivision regulations that we recommend that any developer come before the planning board and check beforehand, which they did not. And because they did not, they're presuming that the waivers are okay, and they don't provide the information that we need. And I gotta say, looking over these maps, the waivers that they did, so they didn't provide color. Reading the maps would be much better in color. They didn't do the scale. We asked for 1/40, they did 1/200. You eliminate a lot of the details that you otherwise could discern things. And then the third one is features. There's a lot of features, whether it's buildings or solar installations specifically, or, there's a lot of features that you would want to assess, and they don't include the features because they're
Michael,
asking for a waiver.
Michael, can I make a comment?
Well, Nathan's the chair, so you have to ask
Can
him.
I make a comment?
Please
So
do.
let me just address Michael quick while we're still on the topic. I think the definition of preliminary plan in the subdivision control law is probably more important than individual things that might be extra above and beyond that are in the Shutesbury subdivision regulations. I think you need to look to chapter 4181L for the definition of preliminary plan. That's really what's going to control what they have to submit.
Yeah, well, I know that, I have a high level of confidence since Nathan and Donna talked about this, and then Nathan dug down, that was the starting point.
Yeah.
Right, Nathan? You were
Right.
you were looking to the state law.
Yeah, no, it's, there may be some deficiencies, but I don't see any departures from that definition. And another thing I've been looking at is there's a ruling back some time ago, and it was one of the questions that came up was, this question of whether a preliminary plan can be appealed. And it can't. And there's one of the sections in the Subdivision Control Act provides for the appeal of subdivision plans. But the section that provides for the preliminary plan states that unless expressly provided for, the provisions of the Subdivision Control Act do not apply to preliminary plans. So that's, so even though there's, it lays out an appeals process, it doesn't explicitly extend that to preliminary plans, right? So a lot of the things you see in here aren't applicable. And that could include some of the submission requirements we've talked about. But we didn't, we're kind of, we're not gonna make a decision on that. That would be something for a judge to decide if it were to end up in court. All right. Marion, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, thank you. I don't know if it's relevant for subdivision plans, but I notice on those plans that there's wetland delineations. And I just want to call the planning board's attention to the fact that for 2 of those parcels, the ANRADs have expired or are about to expire. Particularly for Pratt Corner East, that wetland delineation has already expired, so there is no approved wetland delineation for Pratt Corner East. And I believe Leverett West expires at the beginning of April. The applicant requested from the Conservation Commission an extension, which was denied. So that is expiring and there's no opportunity for them to extend it at this point. So I don't know if that's relevant for subdivision requirements, but I wanted you to be aware of it.
Thank you. Yeah, it could be relevant in, review of a definitive plan. Preliminary plans, I mean, these, they just have the, wetlands as delineated on, a state map, Mass GIS, I believe. So it's, they're not even using what they had from the INRADs, Miriam. So, okay. The other thing so I talked about, Pratt West, Pratt East, also creates a zoning violation for lot 1. The lot it shows has reduced frontage on the road. The lot 1 is inclusive of the solar facility. It's labeled on the plan as a lease area with a booking page, but it doesn't indicate that it's a ground-mounted solar facility. And however, based on the lot that's shown, that would reduce the frontage of that lot, which contains the solar facility, and therefore create a frontage violation by creating that lot like that. The documents and plans provided do not show any reference to Article 5, open space design. I have a typo here, I guess. So I just fix that little typo right there. And I state that yeah, so they don't adhere to open space design, which is a requirement for any subdivision that takes place in anywhere outside of town center. So rural residential and forest conservation zoning districts, unless of course they request a special permit. Decisions or the other thing was all 4 development impact statements contain errors in response to questions. And these errors are reference made to the town of Ludlow Planning Board, of course. And I say, this is just kind of indicative of overall, it's generic responses that aren't substantively connected to the specific plans of tracts of land. So then the decisions basically kind of go through those findings and say, we're rejecting the plans, because we don't grant the waivers of compliance, or we don't grant the waivers of compliance. Therefore, that results in several deficiencies, and they say we disapprove of Leverett West and Montague because they contain omissions of the statutorily required elements listed, existing ways and easements. I mentioned we disapprove of Pratt West and Pratt East because they show subdivision lots that would not meet specific requirements under the town of Shutesbury zoning bylaw pertaining to frontage, access, or principal use. And we disapprove of all 4 plans because they do not meet requirements for open space design. And that's it. So I'm hoping that we can get a vote on this, but we can discuss whether or not we should omit some of these findings. I mean, it's in the public.
Can I jump in, Nathan?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I think you did a phenomenal job just researching and writing it. I mean, you put a lot of effort into it, and the detail definitely shows. Personally, I'm happy just approving it as it is. I mean, I think it's very thorough. It's much more thorough than their subdivision plans, definitely in terms of the approach. And we've done our due diligence in this regard, much more than they did. So I would support it. And if people are happy to, when it's appropriate, I can make a motion to that effect.
I have a question. I'm wondering why you would consider omitting anything.
That's just the, with regard to what Jeff was saying about, it's essentially kind of, it's a more of a hardball tactic in terms of our treatment of these. In that, it's, what this document has in there is information about, what shortfalls these plans have that would need to be addressed in a definitive plan. And, so to an extent that information is somewhat of a roadmap, for any actor who would be seeking a zoning freeze under different provisions that provide for that. But it's, one of the things that's also important is to, even though we've been told that this was being submitted expressly for the purpose of a zoning freeze, it is still a formal application, and so, for example, with the waivers, stating, we don't just, accept the waivers, we disapprove of the waivers because we don't find it in the public interest to accept them, and we haven't been given any reason to, right? That kind of thing, just to kind of lay that out, that it's that is not that's what the board's opinion is, right? That we're not going to be granting waivers out of the blue when requested to.
Can I say something?
Please do.
Maybe somewhere in the letter, you could say that there are many reasons why we don't approve them, including the following. So it's not a definitive list of all the reasons why it's not going to be approved.
That's a reasonable idea. I think we could
just put it in, including the following, because they could always come back and say, well, you listed all the reasons, and you said, no, I didn't list all the reasons. I listed some of them. So basically, your research would be some of the reasons why, but it would leave us open to finding other reasons. So just somewhere including the following. I think that's stronger, and it leaves us open to, it's not a, though, as Michael said, the work that you did was phenomenal. Give the impression that it was definitive and final, and that you found all the reasons why. This is just your preliminary look at some of the reasons why we don't approve it.
No, I think I had a similar thought, Jeff. It just didn't quite get there. So I appreciate that. I do. And Mr. Lacy, I saw you with your hand up earlier. I don't know if you wanted to speak.
Well, yeah, without venturing an opinion, I will I will state that a letter to the applicant at this point could enable them to correct deficiencies and quickly resubmit the plans within a month or so. Well ahead of any town meeting that you might have. So that's all I have to say.
No, that's indeed. Does that answer your question, Ashley?
Keith has got a question, a point.
Keith?
Hey, I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand on the Zoom. And just to play devil's advocate to Jeff's comment, we are public servants. I think we should be neutral. We receive this, we should treat it like any other application. I think it's good practice to provide feedback. I think, again, as public servants, we should provide feedback as to why it's deficient, why we're declining it. Whether it was our next door neighbor or, you know, a big company submitting a thing. I just think it's not to be a, you know, just a bureaucracy, but to be, again, a public servant and try to assist the public in their efforts, and neutrally, I guess. So
Yeah.
anyway, I like the letter. I like the thoroughness of it. I like that you spelled out specifically what it is. If they take the time to go back, again, I'm shocked that they submitted this in the condition it's in. You know, that the Ludlow typos over and over again are you know, indicative of not putting a lot of time into the submissions. But anyway, for what it's worth.
Well, thank you, Keith, and you know, I do agree with you. I would have concerns if we were to, you know, in treating this any differently than we would treat, you know, something from anyone. I mean, given that, yeah, you know, it's, yeah, we do have an obligation to take an impartial and neutral approach to these questions.
I have to say though, it's the applicants have an agenda as well. I mean, I think you know, I have not been a full member of this board for all that long, but this board has been through this before. And this is, it is, they're taking an action for which the outcome is not necessarily what they're asking us to approve. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but you know, we are public servants and we have to take all things into consideration as far as like, you know, protecting the public as well.
Can
And
I jump in, Ashley?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I sort of come down in the middle, you know, and I feel like I could be more blunt, you know, they're gaming the system. Because the subdivision law in Massachusetts is just, you know, everyone agrees that these preliminary plans are mythical. You know, that there is no residential subdivisions going in any of these places. And I think all players know that. So that's sort of like the terrain. We are in a hardball situation because we're actively getting sued on this thing, and we have been through this. But I would, on the other hand, Amy, to Keith's point and Nathan's point, I think demonstrating that we've done our due diligence, that we've done our homework and we're responding competently and completely, is really, there's so much chess you can do, and they have the money. They can come back, and my personal sense is, based on their track record, they never come back. It's like they have this tickler system, and they know when Shutesbury is having a town meeting, and they go to the same company, they send the same damn thing in, and it's silly, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our due diligence and be complete. So I mean, we should be professional in the dance, even if they can't be. But it's worth acknowledging that they do have an agenda. They're gaming a system that makes no sense to me, and I think it just is. It's silly that a preliminary plan can be one thing that it really isn't, and yet we have to. I mean, the number of hours that I looked at it a bunch, but Nathan looked at it a lot. Like that's,
But
know,
in
not
all
fair.
fairness, this has been a great opportunity for me personally as a public servant to learn all about the subdivision control law. And for better or worse, I've become much better at it. Listen, this is getting really late now. So I would like to hear a motion to approve for this letter to go out, as I've edited it on screen here, adding the statement from Jeff Weston and two small typos I just kind of did on the screen here.
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded, Raymond.
Okay. Any discussion? And Tom, you have your hand up, so why don't you go ahead?
Can you just address 3 small typos, please?
What's that?
I noticed 3 small typos. Would you mind addressing them?
Oh yeah, sure.
In the Pratt West paragraph on this page, the second paragraph on this page, but you have to scroll up to the top of this page.
Yeah.
The plan labeled Pratt West contains an error. Do you see that paragraph?
Yes, right here.
The 4th line down after the word way, proposed way, should be a period there. And then there should be a closed parentheses at the end of the paragraph. That open parentheses doesn't have a closed one. So I believe there should be a period after way, and then I believe there should be a closed parentheses after frontage.
A second close parenthesis, right?
There's an open parenthesis after way, a period, and then at the very end of the paragraph, a closed parentheses, because the open parentheses for C section 4.2 does not have a closed parentheses. But as far as I understand it, you mean for that parenthetical, or you could just leave it out. There, you could do it. You could do it that way as well. But that open parentheses did not have a closed one to it. That was all I was noticing it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
And then there's another one in the open space, 2 paragraphs down. The provide should be provided. So if you scroll down a little bit more, where it says section 5.1-2, it should say as provided by section 5.1-2. It just says as provide right now.
That's right.
And then in the decision area on the second paragraph, I think it is, please. No, the very first line. The subdivision of land for in sections, blah, 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 blah. So either for or in. I think you mean in. But I just noticed that the 2 there didn't seem to make sense together. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you for that careful review, Tom.
It was hard while it was moving on the screen.
Right. Yeah, that was all on the screen too. I should no, that's good. All right. Anyone else for discussion? I'm gonna call roll. Raymond?
Aye.
Pycroft?
Aye.
Wrestler?
Abstain.
Day Kira?
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So the motion passes with an abstention. Okay. Excellent. All right, we've got some minutes, update on JCA. You know, does anyone object to adjourning? And then you know, dealing with some of these issues at the next scheduled meeting? Okay. There was some things I wanted to talk about in the housekeeping items and whatnot, but it's I think we'll so is there anything anything anyone could think of that we just need to talk about before you know, we close the meeting? You know, anything like just kind of forward looking with respect to everything we're trying to move through? Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second.
All right. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Weston,
Aye.
Akira,
Aye.
Bressler,
Aye.
Pycroft,
Aye.
and Raymond,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Everyone, thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Nathan, for all of your hard work. And Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yep,
you all.
thanks.
I'll see you at the next regularly scheduled planning board meeting.
Have a happy snowstorm.
Indeed. All right, good night.